Last Oasis is a high-stakes, action-packed, open-world PvP survival game that will consistently keep you looking over your shoulder to make sure no other pirates are going to come and steal all of your loot. In today's video, I'd like to show you some important tips and tricks to help you through the starting zone and give you a general idea of what to expect from Last Oasis.
Nomad, do you remember what I have told you? If you find your trousers full of sand, you've landed in the wastes. Now shake it off and begin moving. The sun is near. It will consume this place.
As with most survival games, when you first load into the Oasis, you'll likely want to start gathering all the raw materials you possibly can from the ground. One of the first things that you're going to want to make is a beat stick, so you can defend yourself from the wild Rupu, and from any potential pirates that may be starting with you. And open up your inventory, you'll notice that there's a few slots that have a blue icon, and you may notice a message that tells you about having protected slots. This is a feature implemented in Last Oasis that only lasts until level 20, to try and help protect new players in their first days in the Oasis. That said, one of the first things you do in the tutorial is to build your first walker, and using simple materials found in the area, you can upgrade the walker to have cargo slots, as well as the ability to pack a chest, which will allow you to keep your most important items safe while you're on the starting map. However, keep in mind, as soon as you leave the starting map, this is no longer a 100% safe tactic. But I'll cover that in a little more detail later. As you move around and start figuring out the controls, you'll notice in the top left corner of your screen, there's a little icon that looks like an eyeball with an orange button below it that says F3. This button is to show and hide the tutorial message when you're first learning to play. The tutorial does a reasonable job of giving you the basics, and as an added bonus, each time you complete the tasks on the list, you are given fragments as well as experience. I would highly suggest following the tutorial until it asks you to go to the trader, because that will require you to leave the starting zone and move to a medium map. And before you do that, you want to be as prepared as possible, and that leads me to one of the most important tips that I can give you while you're in the starting zone, and that is, do not leave the starting zone until you are at least level 20, and I would highly suggest staying and farming your fragments until you've unlocked almost everything you can possibly unlock using fragments, because while you're in the starting zone, your ship cannot be burned and your inventory cannot be hauled. That way you can farm as many fragments as you possibly can without having to worry about losing everything that you've worked for. As you progress to the starting zone of Last Oasis, you'll notice that there's an abundance of fiber, wood, and stone on the ground. But you'll need some more advanced resources to be able to craft better weapons and more advanced crafting stations. One of the easiest ways to get these resources is by clearing Rupu camps and looting all of the little urns inside of the huts and all around on the ground. This should give you all the resources that you need to create your first crafting stations. Next, I'd like to briefly go over each of the crafting stations and what you will use them for within the starting zone. One of the first stations that you're going to make is a campfire. Within the starting zone, this can be used for two main things: turning cactus flesh into water, and for turning huge cactus fruit and water into vision powder so that you can place the foundations for a new walker. Following that is the woodworking station. This station is used for turning wood and fiber into wood shafts. Next up is the standard fiber working station. This can be used to craft many different things, such as fiber out of Rupu pelt, which I would not advise because Rupu pelt's actually quite a useful resource once you leave the starting map, fiber weave out of fiber and wood, as well as rope out of fiber and Rupu vine. Additionally, you can make rope out of cattail, but cattail is not available within the starting zone. And last but not least, one of my favorite stations, which is the stomping station. This station is super versatile. It can be used for creating water, you can create sand out of stone, or it can create earth wax out of many different things, such as Rupu vine, beeswax, mushroom flesh, and palm leaves. There's a few other crafting stations available in Last Oasis, but I'm not going to cover these in this video because they're not accessible within the starting zone. The tutorial in Last Oasis gets you on your way, but it doesn't include certain things, like for example if you open up your inventory and you hit the button that says show equipment, it will show you everything that you currently have equipped. Now that you have an understanding of base materials and crafting stations, you should be able to put together a reasonable set of tools and armor. This should include a simple sickle, a woodcutter's hatchet, a fiber head wrap, a full set of Reveur armor including sleeves and sandals, a light backpack, an improvised bottle, and a foraging pouch. The area in the center of the map that I've marked is the best spot to go to farm fragments and to level up. But be careful, most people know about this spot, so there's a fair chance you'll run into someone. The best way to get up this hill is on the southwest side, where the slope is a bit more gradual, making it easier to get up the hill. Once you make it up the hill, you'll notice large wreckage all over the place. Throughout these wreckage are different barrels, boxes, bags on the ground, and hanging bags that you can gather fragments and different resources from. In the center you'll find a Reveur Hazaraki. This Reveur has a few-minute respawn timer that allows you to go around and collect some of the boxes while you wait for it to respawn. This Reveur is the only one on the starting map that has a chance to drop a bone axe, amongst other items. Now that you've had some time to collect resources and fragments, you're probably thinking about building some bigger walkers. Before you start building, there's some things you should know about the 6 different walkers that you have access to building on the starting map. Many different walkers excel in different areas, but for the most part, they're all designed to be usable in any different aspect depending on how the user decides to outfit it. However, here's some graphs that I've put together that show a good reference of what each different walker is strong versus weak at. Please keep in mind though, due to the nature of the graph, it is not intended to compare each different walker against one another, but more importantly to give a general idea of what each walker is stronger or weaker at. The 6 different walkers that you can build while you're still in the starting zone are the Firefly, which is quick and easy to build. It doesn't require a vision potion. It has a small amount of deck space as well as you can pack a single object. It's one of the first walkers that you were intended to make, and it's the smallest walker that has wings. With the exception of being cheap to make, the Firefly doesn't excel in any one area, but it's a fun little walker that doesn't take much effort to throw together. Next up is the Nomad Spider Walker. The Spider is the go-to walker of most solo players because it's small, it doesn't have any wings to give you away, and it has the ability to climb vertically up basically any wall within the game, with the exclusion of the very tall rock pillars. The Spider doesn't have any deck space, but it does allow you to pack 3 separate items, and the driver is located down low between the legs, which makes it much harder for potential boarders to be able to kill the driver. That said, the Spider is probably one of the slowest walkers in the game, but when you're in the wooded areas, it makes it very easy to deke between the trees and get away from the larger walkers that have to knock down all the trees to make it through. Next up is the Dinghy. This Dinghy, when fully upgraded and using torque, is one of the fastest walkers in the game. But even before it's upgraded, it's still quite quick, especially in comparison to the Spider Walker. The Dinghy is typically used for multiple different things by solos and small groups for everything from farming to stuffing multiple different people onto it and going to battle. With small wings, the Dinghy has the best speed to visibility ratio out of all the different walkers. Because of the cheap material cost, it makes it a favorite for a low investment pirate rig that you can just run out into battle and throw away and not have to worry about. It has a reasonable amount of deck space for its size, and it's the first walker on this list that has the ability to pack multiple building blocks. The Dinghy can hold a maximum pack base size of 70 building blocks, which when used correctly can actually be a very reasonable base. However, you do still have to be mindful of the maximum weight limit on the walker, as your pack base does count towards your walker's overall weight. The Mollusk is the 3rd and newest walker on this list. It's also the only walker on this list that has an internal compartment that you can put boxes and crafting stations. You can't even put your steering levers inside, but the view is extremely bad, so you wouldn't want to use that unless it's specifically designed for a certain situation. The Mollusk has a much higher weight rating than the Dinghy. That said, it definitely does not like going up any steep hills, especially once you've got it over half weight. In terms of speed, the Mollusk is quite average. It's not quite as fast as the Stiletto, the next walker on this list, but it's much faster than the Spider Walker. And like all 4 of the last walkers on this list, it has the ability to use and generate torque. The Stiletto is the 2nd largest walker on this list, and is by far one of the most commonly used ships in the game. The Stiletto has a ton of deck space, it's reasonably quick, and it maneuvers quite well until you get it onto a large hill with a fair amount of weight. That said, in a recent patch, The Stiletto, like many other walkers, had its weight adjusted and unfortunately reduced by over 50%. But even after the nerf, the Stiletto is still an extremely useful walker, and a likely pick for many different people starting this game. Last but not least is the Toboggan. The Toboggan, in terms of overall size with base wings, is the largest walker on this list. It's also the most resource intensive to create due to the fact that you need 68 rope, and the only way to get rope in the starting zone is to use a lot of fiber and Reveur vine. However, the Toboggan has a unique feature which allows each one of its cargo slots to stack one individual resource all the way up to 999. It's also the only walker on this list that has a small cubby in the back where you can put the driver controls and you can block it off so any potential boarders have an extremely hard time trying to break their way in through to the driver. And when set up correctly, the driver has the ability to shoot reverse ballistas at anybody trying to break through the wall that's between them and the driver. The Toboggan's another walker with a very average speed. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it still gets you where you're trying to go. Unfortunately, one of the biggest problems with the Toboggan walker is its big old nose, and it catches on everything. There's different ways to work around this, and when you learn how to drive the Toboggan, it's not so bad, especially on hard maps. But it's definitely something to take into account when you're looking at building your first walkers. One of the last things I want to briefly touch on when it comes to the different walkers is modifications. When you loot different fragment spots, you have a chance to get modifications. These modifications can be used on higher quality walkers to give it many different effects, such as quicker crafting speed, a higher weight capacity, reducing the weight of a packed base, being able to pick up foraging or even wood off the ground, and many other different uses. However, one of the typical mistakes people make is they put their modifications into the first walker, which unfortunately isn't built in such a way that can properly benefit from the different mods. Later on, when you've built a better ship and you've gathered up a ton of different modules, you can put them all on one ship that's designed to do a specific job. But please keep in mind, anytime you take something out into the Oasis, you risk losing it. That includes the modifications. When somebody reduces a walker's health to absolute zero, you can no longer repair or use the walker, and all the modifications within the slots have now gone to waste. It's unfortunate when this happens to you, but being primarily a PvP based game, it's something that you'll learn to live with and learn to play around. Now this leads me into one of the final parts of this video, which is leaving the starting zone and how to protect all the valuables that you've gone and farmed. Regardless of if you're on the starting map, a medium map, a hard map, or any other variety of map, the only time a walker or its contents are truly safe are when they're in the logout lobby. To get to the logout lobby, there's two different ways you can do it. Either you can run to the edge of the map and you can lobby using the L key, or you can hit escape and use the transfer to lobby feature, which takes 120 seconds and will be cancelled if you or your walker takes any damage. However, keep in mind, when you transfer to lobby, this puts sand in your walker's gears, and when you have sand in your walker's gears, it cannot be jumped from tile to tile. And the only way to get sand off of your walker is by walking it out in areas that are not the desert. The way people typically keep their valuables safe is that they'll have a dedicated walker that they leave all of their good stuff on. It stays in the lobby until it's absolutely needed. Then you take it out of the lobby, and for approximately 130 to 150 seconds, you have a protective bubble around you. As soon as you spawn in, hit escape, toggle your transfer to lobby. This is so that if somebody decides to come up over a hill and try to attack you, you will have already started your lobby and you will transfer out before the bubble despawns. If you do not do this within the first few seconds of logging in, you will not make it before the bubble despawns and you will likely be attacked. That said, if it is clear, the best method is to stay just on the edge of the map, not quite to where you can log out, so that way you can still see through the smoke, because keep in mind, when you are in the smoke, you can't see out, but people can see in without any issue. And that way, if you spot anybody in the distance, you can grab your things, you can jump into the lobby, and you can be safe. When you're finally done farming fragments and resources, and you're about to leave the map, there's a few things you're going to want to look for. Each type of tile has a different icon. When you're first looking to leave the starting zone, I would highly suggest you find a medium tile. When you click on a different tile, it brings up a box on the right hand side. This box will provide you with a lot of important information about the server. Starting on the right at the top, you will see the name of the tile. Below that, following the right side down, you will see the location of the server. With the way Last Oasis is set up, if you zoom out far enough, you can go from one end of the map to the other, and you can follow from the EU all the way to Southeast Asia, all on one map. Below that is the type of tile. This is also indicated by multiple different diamonds. The harder the tile, the more diamonds, and they will change from yellow to red. Below that is an indicator of how full a server is. This will switch from spacious to crowded to full. And unless you're an experienced player, I would not suggest being on any tile that is not spacious. The last important thing to look for is the player hostilities. This is indicated by a red and a green box, and each one has a number. The red box indicates how many individual players have gotten a kill over the past approximate 12-hour basis, and the green number shows the approximate amount of people on the tile itself, not including those who have been the aggressor in a hostile interaction. In total, there's 5 different tiles that you can go to, beginning with the starting map that's only accessible to people that are still on the starting map, a medium map, which is a great choice for new players just learning the ropes because it's a little less crowded, and has access to the majority of the different materials that you're going to need. The next map that was introduced to the game is a hard tile. Hard tiles have fabricators on it where you can turn fragments to tablets so that you can unlock the later skills in the tree. It also has a few different resources on it that you can't gather on a medium map, and it has a much higher tree density, which makes for a good time practicing how to grapple. Unfortunately, this is the go-to spot for a lot of different people, so there's a fair chance you're going to run into both farmers and pirates out there. And it's also the type of map that most people lose their first ship on. The 2 maps that are left are the Iron Asteroid Crash sites, as well as the lava maps. The Iron map has a specific purpose, which is to gather iron ore. There's very few other resources there, as well as it's a very hostile place, and the tile only lasts 2 hours. For that reason, I would not suggest venturing there until you're further into the game and you've got at least an advanced pick, or else you can't mine the iron ore anyways. The most recent map to be put into the game was the lava map. The intended purpose of this map is to be able to gather a large quantity of lava and feathers. Unfortunately, it's reasonably barren other than that. You can collect many different base materials such as fiber and wood and stone, as well as there's fragment spots that you can farm, but overall, the map itself doesn't really offer a whole lot over any of the other types of map, as well as it's the only map that has creatures on it that will come down and they'll destroy your wings regardless of what you're doing if they're deployed. Now this pretty much wraps it up for all the information I can give you in regards to being in the starting zone and when you're about to leave the starting zone. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be putting out a more advanced guide for once you're out of the starting zones that will go into far more detail on many different things such as the different types of walkers, the most efficient way to farm a ton of fragments as well as modifications, as well as I intend to explain the quality system in this game in a way that can be understood and implemented without wasting too much time trying to figure it all out.